Yeah, it's in your base, so I went rush here, so. But yeah, no, it's, even apartment there in a
Remember when you hadn't seen Corey for a while, because you guys kind of, the next thing I heard is he contributed to the whole music. Just seeing Corey's eyes.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's the least I can do.
Somebody sits there, I'll just throw them out.
Not quite 8 months, he's a few days short. Hi, buddy.
There was a writer many centuries ago who was extremely puzzled about the dilemma of understanding life and all of its absurdities. His name was, of all things, Koheleth. It simply means the preacher. Could mean a lot of things, the speaker, the proclaimer. He wrote these words about what it meant to dangle between understanding things amidst the absurdities that life sometimes presents to us. He wrote these words a long, long time ago. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what's planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, but a time to dance. A time to throw away stones, but a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and then a time for peace. All of us in this room today are consumed with all of those feelings. Tremendous love for this woman, tremendous anger at decisions made, a time to understand diseases, and a time to hate their results and our inability to cure them, just like that, when we can cure so many things today. Why not this? And so here we are, like Koheleth, centuries ago, living in those times, all gathered together in this one place, in this one event, for Deborah's sake and for ours. I don't know when it was, sometime shortly after she was born, perhaps months, I don't know, years. Grandma, I don't know when it happened. But it would have been the culture of the times that she would have been presented to a church or a minister, and their promises were made that essentially boiled down to this: we will give this child the tools to lead an amazing life. You did. Those tools allowed her to conquer more than we will ever know. And though today we are gathered because of one moment, one dark moment, when the tools themselves were not enough, I want you to understand that we are also here today to remember the fact that there were innumerable times when she won that you never knew about. That silently and with great grit, and dare I say, yes, in her own kind, faith, that indeed she was capable. She was. And there were times, whether you knew it or not, that just because you were there in her life, you made the difference. So do not despair over the fact that on one occasion it was not enough, because on so many other times it was. And she wants to thank you for that, I am sure. We're going to take some time now, and I offer this as a special time for you to share a story or a memory. And I want you to be brave about this. And if you have something that you'd like others to hear or something that you need to offer today, just because it's you, we're going to take some time now for that. Would someone like to share a story or a memory or simply say a word? Please be brave.
I have more than a word to say, so other people can.
Why don't you? Are you related to Alan by any chance? Oh, well, okay. Because he has lots of words too. So please, why don't you begin? Tell everyone who you are and take off your mask to speak.
For those of you who don't know, I'm Cheryl Garahan, and I'm one of Debbie's best friends. And I want to thank the family for allowing me to come today, because I knew that this was going to be private, and so I feel real blessed to be included.
You are family.
Thank you. Debbie was my soul sister. I'm here because of Debbie on two accounts. One, because she was my closest and dearest friend, and she could never be replaced. I also owe Debbie my life. 5 years ago, she got me through a serious bout of cancer when chemo was poisoning me, killing me. She got me to the emergency room and got the emergency room doctor to stop the chemo when my oncologist wouldn't. He was sticking by his protocol. The emergency doctor realized that I was dying. I hadn't eaten in weeks, and I was falling down. I'd broken my collarbone. Debbie sat in the ER room with me at 3 a.m. She sat with me consistently through chemo and other doctor appointments related. And after the treatments were finished, the hospital sent me a notice saying that they had been overdosing me and that they had to change their protocol because I probably would have died if they had kept on. We both knew at the time that I would die if things had continued as it was. Debbie was brilliant. She was a perfectionist. She thoroughly researched everything that she ever did, which is part of what made her such a great veterinarian. Another veterinarian in St. Paul I came in contact with told me that Debbie was the best diagnostician in the Twin Cities. Debbie and I met while we were working at the Animal Humane Society 43 years ago. And we've been through a lot together, a lot of good times and a lot of bad times. But mostly, Debbie was there for me. I went into social work and specialized in working with people with mental health issues, and imagine how hard it is to know that I couldn't save my best friend. We all tried our hardest, and part of what made Debbie amazing was her determination. When she made her mind up about something, there was no changing it, which is why we could never talk about politics. Debbie was amazing. If only she knew or believed it, there will never be another like her. I was blessed to have her in my life. Thank you, Debbie, for everything. And thank you, Betty and Corey and Al and Janelle for sharing her with my family, who will always consider her Auntie Deb, and she'll always be my soul sister forever. Thank you.
Someone else. Yes, please.
Hi, Cheryl. My name is Denny Albert, and I did not prepare a speech. I thought about it and just thought I would speak from my heart. And excuse me if I have breaks.
Start out with your history.
We met in veterinary school the very first day. Everyone in the class knew each other. I came from Boston, so it was a little different being in the Twin Cities. and there was a huge room full of people, and they pretty much, it looked like, knew each other. So, but I was, as was typical, I was down in the front row and listened to everyone give all of their presentations, and Nielsen was up near the door in the very last row.
Sorry, that's my son.
And
Explanation, it's Nielsen to you and it
oh,
always has-
I'm sorry. Yes,
When we're talking, right?
from the day we met. Yeah, she was Nielsen to me, not Deb. So, but we both, everyone immediately matched up because you had to pick someone that you would be working, sleeping, eating with in the first year of vet school, and everyone had prearranged it. I looked, except a very few, and I looked around the room, and I really didn't see anyone who could possibly feel similar until, and she was standing up in the other side of the room looking down, and we both scanned until we saw each other, and there was this electric connection, and I just went, and she did too, and that was it. And that was that way for 38 years. And she, firstly, was one of the most brilliant people I've had the privilege of knowing in my lifetime, and I've experienced and interacted with a lot of academics and people at all levels. And she was focused, determined, stubborn, more than any mule you'll ever meet. And I've never connected with any other human mind in the same way. We could, in all different aspects of life, whether pursuit of knowledge or adventuring, which we did as frequently as we could. It was somewhat limited by our different financial status, but we did when we could. We traveled to Greece. We had a remarkable time there. When we would get together, we'd have this classic thing where we would, upon seeing each other at the airports where we'd meet, we immediately went on an instant high, both sides, I believe, and we stayed that way through the duration of our time together, like no other. And we would get into these situations where from that time we would just both talk, and we'd talk at the same time, and we'd both be able to hear each other, and we could do all these segues that no one could possibly follow, but we knew exactly where the other person was, whether it was in a like I said, a cerebral pursuit, or whether it was humor, strange humor, sarcasm. I never was able to, when I came to Minnesota to school, I would tell a joke and no one ever got it, except Nielsen. And she would tell a joke and I would get it, and I figured that she was probably the only cynical person ever born in the state. And I had the good fortune to find her. When we would have, either one of us would have trouble figuring something out, again, on any walk of life, we would call the other person. So she was my base, my rock, my center. And I'm not angry with her in any way. I think that whatever pain she felt was volumes more than I could ever feel. Otherwise, she wouldn't have chosen to do what she did. I just value the 38 years that we had together. Many people never have anything like our relationship.
Thank you both. We don't need to stop there. Someone else? Sir.
Hi, I'm Ron Tunby, Richfield Spartan 72. And I was there at the beginning when Deb was one of the first females to work at Arby's. Wait, you tell our grandkids these things that, phones couldn't take pictures, and I don't know about other places, but yeah, Arby's didn't have females, but she was one of the first. Anyway, and I gotta say, if Al wasn't such a good friend of mine, I would have been jealous, but I never was, Alan. But there Deb was. She's nice and fun and beautiful. So we've been friends all these years, and she was, as far as being a vet goes, I remember she was incredible. In fact, at one point she was a little ticked off at me because she was going on about the grafts. Our cat had diabetes, and my wife had found the cat behind the couch, and I called me up, and I said, I'll come home, and Barb took Pal in, and Deb fixed him up and was explaining the shots and the grafts and up and down, and I'm, even with my own things that I've had, I just want to know how to take care of it. And I said, Deb, I don't really get the grafts. And she, Ron, I'm explaining to you. Okay. So anyway, and she was nice enough to, when we finally had to put our cat of 22 years down, she was great enough to come over, and I'll never forget that she took care of Pal. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about, and if I go too long, Barb, I wish you'd just wave, because she knows I can go on, but I won't. But we were fortunate enough to get together with Al and Deb a few times a year and have a great dinner. But, we just didn't get together as couples. But one of my favorite things, and little things can be great. But I'm retired, but I have a part-time job delivering auto parts around. And I do it in the Richfield, Bloomington, and southern area. And I was fortunate enough to deliver parts to John's Auto Shop and a transmission shop on Cedar, about 71st and Cedar, which means when I go back to my store, I can drive by the Russell Nielsen house, and I would do that sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And Deb I'm jealous of her gardening. I think I'm a good gardener, but we're always learning. And Deb was great, but most of the great stuff was in the backyard. And the front yard looks great, Al, but I'm sure she spent most of her time in the backyard. But I didn't have time to stop and look around and things like that. But when I had always looked for her in the yard. And I was fortunate enough, about once every few weeks, she'd be out there. In fact, the last time I saw her a few weeks ago, she was out scraping the gutter. And how did this stuff get on the gutter? But she was going to do it. She was up on the ladder scraping it. But you'll probably recognize something like this, that I was driving by, and I just get a little disappointed that if I didn't see her, which was most of the time. But like I say, every now and then I'd see her. And one time I saw her with Al and her were doing something. But a few months ago, I drove by and I didn't see her. But maybe I'll drive by again, and tomorrow or whatever. But I happened to see an attractive woman walking a little dog, and I thought, well, I wonder what that is. A couple blocks away, closer to the school we went to. And it turned out, as I got closer, it turned out to be Deb, and I thought, well, that's not their dog. They don't have little puffy, little floofy dogs. But it was her because she found this dog. It was a stray dog, and she was walking around the neighborhood to find out who the owner was. And that's Deb.
You sure they didn't have little foofy poofy? I thought that was a great description. Thank you. Anybody else?
Is it possible to request someone just to get up here and just say a few words? Darwin Murray. I just wanted you to get up here and just give me a little background about your childhood, because I don't know. Come on, this is for me. I don't care if anybody else listens to it. I just want to hear a little bit. Sorry to put you on the spot here.
You can take off your mask.
Well, my name's Darrell Lundstrom, and Deb was my niece, and we grew up together more like brother and sisters when we were little. And she was a year older than me, and so I was born an uncle. And one of the things that she always used to do when she'd introduce me to her friends was she'd introduce me, this is my uncle, because she'd like to see their response and see how long it took them to kind of figure it out. And, but yeah, we grew up together, a lifetime together. Hell no, I was at your wedding. And, yeah, I just,
Where did you guys grow up?
well, we grew up in St. Louis Park, and Deb grew up in Richfield, of course, you know, so. But yeah, it was a great life, so I don't want to focus on, I guess, life without her now, or not knowing she's there. But, well, going through the pictures, I mean, just great memories. And that's what I need to focus on. Okay, thanks.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay.
Anyone else? I have a feeling that there's a gathering, I know there's a gathering that the family invites you to back at the house after the service today, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more Deb stories that are going to come out then. Right now, we're going to hear a song. Today is not a day for platitudes, if ever there is a day for that. Today is not a day of simple answers or easy answers when we all know that this is way beyond easy. No simple way to describe what she went through or what the final cause of the end of her life was. The best way that I can imagine that this will become meaningful for all of you and for you is a story. And I'm not being light. Many centuries ago, there was a man who was named was Jacob. And he was brilliant. And so was his mother. And in their brilliance, they found a way to place Jacob in an unusual situation. He was given tremendous capabilities and tremendous riches, and he went on to have an amazing life. An amazing life. But Jacob also lived with a secret to him. That perhaps in modern times we would have described it in some medical means. But for Jacob, the secret was that he could not get over his past. And he lived with that, and it ate away at him his entire life. Until one day, he realized that he was going to have to confront the very person that was much of the cause of his guilt. His sense of shame, the things that he knew he had done wrong in his life that no one else seemed to care about, but he did. And the one person he was going to have to confront at this point was his brother. His name was Esau. Esau was about to meet Jacob one day and at a predetermined place, and Jacob was being torn up inside by all the things he could not forget about who he had been and how he had gotten to where he was. And so he went off to a place by himself. And as the story goes, and various interpretations have wondered about the exact meaning of this event, but Jacob goes off by himself, and there he has either a dream, and whether you accept it as literal or metaphor, it does not matter. There in this event, Jacob by himself struggles with, the text says, either a man or an angel, and some said God. Doesn't matter. The struggle was very real. And over the course of this night, Jacob has to deal with all of the things that he knows have gone wrong in his life, that no one else knows about, just Jacob. Imagine. You all have had such a night. Deb had them. Things that you never knew about, never cared about, things you'd forgiven her for years ago, or maybe even never knew about. She couldn't forget. She wrestled with them, like Jacob. And in the course of this night that Jacob struggles, wrestles with this individual, whether it is another or whether it is the self, is irrelevant. And he wins. But in the course of that struggle, he ends up with his, and the story says, his hip out of joint. And Jacob wakes up the next morning and meets his brother. And they begin a new life based on grace. But the problem is, you see, is that whatever we feel alike today about that, whatever questions are left unanswered for us about why or what if or when, we might have seen something. Today, we are all waking up like Jacob. But from here on out, like Jacob, we are all going to walk with a limp. I cannot take away the fact that all of us are damaged today too. Like Jacob, once we're willing to struggle with this, we all end up spending the rest of our lives walking with a limp. But walking with a limp was the beginning of a new life for Jacob. It was so new, so important that in that moment, he's given a brand new name. Did you know that? And the one he struggles with gives Jacob a new name, one that you know. He gives Jacob the name Israel. And the reason that he's given the name Israel is because the word Israel means the one who struggles or wrestles with God. Deb did. And now we too do. But you see, walking with a limp through life means that you get to join all of the people that you've ever met and everyone you've ever known that had struggles you never knew about. Because you were there, they were able to walk with a limp. You're here not just because you loved them, but because she loved you. You're here because she loved you and she changed you. And she might get a real kick out of the fact that for the rest of your life now you're going to walk with a limp. But you're walking. You're walking. And though you may be damaged, I want you to focus on the fact that in all those struggles that she had, all those lonely nights like Jacob, wrestling with the angel, wrestling with God, perhaps, of all the times that she did win because you were there. Now, like Jacob, she's with you. And you are able to win again and again and again because you knew her. And you know how strong she could be. And who said stubborn? Stubborn. An attribute, if I ever heard one, in the face of great disease, terrible, overwhelming odds, even the will to live itself. But because she knew you, I think she probably got through an awful lot of it. Hallelujah. Now you see, the great, great crime is not just that Deb has died, but the great crime of this day is that we believe that there is nothing left to do. But you see, that would be terrible if you thought. Because there are so many more people named Israel out there who wrestle with God on a daily basis and who walk with a limp every day that also need to know you. Because you know now what it's like to love somebody who's in pain, don't you? And as you once were a blessing to her, you must now become a blessing to someone else. You must. There is no option for it. Because if you don't, then you see, then the pain continues. And your limp becomes unbearable. But if you have reason to live for the sake of someone else, it's amazing how easily we can live with a limp. And what a joy it is to walk a little funny. Others may make fun of you and not understand, but that's okay. That's a good kind of pain. Jacob, Israel. So you've been blessed on this day of tremendous loss. You have been blessed indeed. But now, there is no reason for you not to be a blessing. Not at all. So as the years go by, you see, I hope that when you find yourself in tremendous pain and you find yourself wondering if indeed it is worth caring about at all, you will feel your hip and get out of your chair and limp through life with a smile on your face. Because now you know how. Anyone who loved animals is a child of St. Francis, who blessed beasts and children alike and understood that it was a great gift to be able to care for those who could not speak and could not tell us what was wrong, and yet found a way to express love to us. Isn't that amazing? And a long, long time ago, this man who took beasts into his own home and fed them as though indeed they were equal creatures with himself wrote these words: Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy. Grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. She loved you all. She was extremely proud of her daughter and grateful to her husband for the grace and the love he showed. And to all of you for being her friends, even though you were not a cat or a dog or whatever. Funny how she could love even you. If you're able, will you please stand? Deb, as you were a blessing to so many, may you now be a blessing in our memories, in our hearts. May some small part of us be carried with us for the rest of our lives, and may we make good with it. Will you help us, please, in the darkest nights of our souls, and aid us as we walk with limps now for all of our days. And may we carry the sweetness and the very best of who you were into being the very best of who we may yet become. For all these things we give you thanks. Amen. Thanks for being here today. It would have made her day, and I think it did, but it'll really make her day if you become a blessing to someone else. We go in peace. Amen.
Excuse me, there's some flash drives in the back with pictures that Corey and Al's family and friends put together. So please take one per family, and then there's refreshments at Al's house after this. So we'll meet everyone there. Thank you.